Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome to the Chop Shop edition, Super Bowl preview style on the Friday before Super Bowl 55. Glad you're with us. Trey Wingo here and Mark Schlereth. And Stink, I think we need to take a moment, right? Because the NFL had no idea how this was going to turn out in a sport where you can't socially distance and you literally have to touch each other on every play. No one knew whether or not we were actually going to get here. Yet here we are. They didn't do a bubble, and they found a way to make it on time, on schedule to Super Bowl 55, and they didn't have to change or they didn't have to cancel a single game in the regular season.
It's incredible. And you think about this, 700 over the course of the season, 700 positive tests, players, coaches, personnel, staff, all that. Seattle Seahawks, not one test, zero positives during the whole course of the season. Amazing what they did. And only Pete Carroll can do that, right? Because Pete Carroll turned that into a game, right? There's a competition involved somewhere. Love to sit down with Pete Carroll and talk exactly about how you take COVID and turn it into a game, because there's only one guy that can do that in the NFL. It's Pete Carroll. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The NFL season was perfect in its imperfection. The fact that they got through it, I was so proud to be a part of it. I was so proud to broadcast it. I was so proud that we played it, and it's interesting, Trey, because, your parents are older. My parents are older. We still have, connection with our folks, obviously, and talk to them on a weekly basis. But on a week-to-week basis, I can't tell you how many times my parents called me and said, hey, we heard from so-and-so. We heard from so-and-so. We heard from this other group, right? These other folks that are in the same boat. We can't tell you how much we look forward to Sundays coming together. It's such a part of the fabric of our country, right? Football is, and sports in general, and how much it was looked forward to on a week-to-week basis to sit down on Sunday and watch a game. And I was just really proud to be a part of the NFL this year.
It really was a spectacular effort, and the contract tracing that they were able to put up was absolutely phenomenal, and that's sort of what got them through this. I mean, look, we literally had a close shave Super Bowl week when the barber for the Chiefs, who came in and there were 20 players in line ready to get haircuts, tested positive, and there were two players, Demarcus Robinson, the wide receiver, and center Dan Kilgore, that were wearing masks. They didn't test positive, but they were in close proximity, so they had to go on the COVID reserve. It looks like they're both good to go for Super Bowl 55. And again, it's not normal, and it's like you said, it's imperfect because the Chiefs still haven't gotten there. Like normally this time Super Bowl week, the players are in their hotels and they're just like raring to go. The Chiefs haven't actually gotten there yet, and the Bucs, because they're the first home team ever, didn't have to go anywhere. Let's start there, because I think that's interesting, because obviously you've been to this game 3 times, 3-0. Nicely done on your part, with two different teams. Normally by Friday, like players are like racehorses at the gate. Like, can we go? Can we go? Can we go? Can we go? And I think it drives them a little crazy. I think that the idea that the Chiefs aren't there yet, I think is really interesting in the player's psyche, because now it's not like the thing that Super Bowl week always is, right? Granted, they've had more media access and had to do more stuff, but it's almost like, well, it's a regular week. We're going to go through our regular practice, and then we're flying on Saturday, and then we'll play the game.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I've been asked on a bunch of different radio interviews across the country this week.
Oh, good! You're so popular. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm very, very popular. but about just that, the difference here, and the fact that the week is so different, and the fact that they're not there, and there's part of me that feels bad for them.
Yeah,
because there's like one of the things that always you travel around and you do a lot of public speaking, as do I. And one of the questions that's always asked of me, is what'd you do to spend quality time with your kids when they were little? And my standard answer is, anytime I've set an hour aside to spend some quality time with my kids, they did something to piss me off. And it was no longer quality time, right?
It was just time.
Right. It's quantity time. That's the key. Like you and Janice, your wife, and me and Lisa, my wife, we didn't outsource the raising of our kids to some, nanny. It was important to me to coach my son's baseball team and my daughter's soccer teams. It was important to be involved that whole time. And that's what I think these guys are going to miss, is that time when you're just downtime, when you're just sequestered and it's just you and the fellas. And like in those moments, there's great things that happen. Like the best story of my Super Bowl experience was in Miami, Super Bowl 33, and we get done with practice, and they've got these walk-in hot tubs and walk-in cold tubs, right? And so, we're walking back and forth, a cold tub, the hot tub, the cold tub. So we're laying around in this hot tub, right? And it's me and a couple of the other offensive linemen just floating around like big sausages in there, right?
I was about to say, it's a really big hot tub.
Right. It was a big giant walk-in hot tub. And so I see this thermometer. It's this 12-inch thermometer, right? That measures the temperature of the water. And it's just, it's got one end that's afloat, right? And it's just floating in the water. And there's a Miami trainer in there cleaning some stuff up in this wet room that is part of their facility. And so I say to the trainer, I don't know who he is. I say, hey man, go get our head trainer. His name is Steve Antonopoulos. We call him Greek. I go get the Greek, man. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. So he goes scurrying out really fast, right? And so I step up on like the third step, and I'm standing there butt naked, hanging over the railing that you walk down into the hot tub with, right? And Greek comes in, and our assistant trainers come in, and all the Miami trainers come in. And Greek goes, "What's up? What's up?" And I go, "Dude, something's wrong with me, man. I'm dizzy. I feel sick." I go, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm going to pass out. And Greek's like, hey, calm down. Let's get you out of here. And I go, no, I can't move. I go, do me a favor. I go, check my temperature. And I turned around. I had that 12-inch thermometer stuck between my butt cheeks. And he's like, you are a dick. And I just fell back into the hot tub, right? And I'm just laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing ever with this 12-inch thermometer hanging out of my ass. And so, like, it's
by the way, that's the visual now that will define this show. So thanks so much for that.
But that's the stupid stuff that you do. As a matter of fact, I'm at Radio Row last year at the Super Bowl. We saw each other there. Obviously, we hung out at the Super Bowl last year. But I'm walking through Radio Row, going to get a cup of coffee, and all of a sudden, some guy stops me. I didn't recognize him. He goes, "Hey, thermometer guy." I was one of the assistant trainers in Miami at that time. he didn't call me stink. He called me thermometer guy.
But you're right. It's true. And side note, I did a Half Forgotten History episode on my YouTube channel. Check it out. Really good podcast, wherever you want to get it, with Zach Ertz. And after they lost that final game of the season to the Washington football team, he and Jason Kelsey, the center, and Carson Wentz, they sat on the field for 90 minutes after the game. And a lot of people took a lot of trying to read signs into that, right? And he said, look, obviously we thought about it might have been our last game together. But the other thing, Trey, he said, was we didn't have any of that this year. Like, we didn't have the ability to just hang out. It was like, come in, do this stuff, and get out of here and get home and get safe. He said that was like the first time the entire season where we were just able to hang and talk about stuff. Because even after you played a game, they wanted you out. Get out there, do your interviews, and go home, get out. And it was just like, we had no idea how long we were out there. We just wanted to be there and be a part of that. So you're right. I think something that's been missing for everybody this entire season. And I don't have a rectal thermometer joke to go along with that, but I did want to do a gratuitous plug.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's during those moments of nothingness, during those moments of just like, well, you and I did TV at the 4-letter network for years. Yeah. And how many times we just sitting around in the green room or sitting around at the, in the newsroom, feet up, and something would happen, something would happen. Somebody would say something that, and it just it's those moments that, that I think I feel bad for the guys not having those moments.
Yeah. Well, now I got to tell this story. This was like 2004, 2005, when ESPN still had 2K5, the video game. And you and I would get all the writing done, and we'd go play the video game because they had it everywhere, the ESPN cafeteria. And one time your mom and dad came to visit, and they're watching us play the video game. And your mom was like, "Ooh, honey, good, you're beating him. Good job." Like, those are the memories, right? That's it. That's the stuff that people think about. And you're right. They're not getting that this Super Bowl trip. Although I think it helps the Chiefs that most of the teams went through that last year, right? So they had that experience, right? So they know that part of it. So look,
by the way, I love what Bruce Arians said. Like, I think it's a big advantage. We're sleeping in our own beds. And I think, hey, Bruce, knock, knock, knock. They're sleeping in their own beds too, right? They haven't left yet.
Nothing's changed. Yeah. This just in, so are the Chiefs. So like there's a million ways to break down this game, and we could do it, right? We could sit here and do all the minutia going through it. And Bill Barnwell, who is a good friend of mine, does a great job on ESPN.com. He wrote an expansive, and I put in quotes when I tweeted it, an exhaustive breakdown of Super
Right.
Bowl 55. But at the end of it, he put this little paragraph. He said, last year at the Super Bowl, I picked the 49ers to beat the Chiefs. And then I spent the entire game hoping that Patrick Mahomes wouldn't do something incredible. And I said to myself, what a miserable experience that was. And then he said, I'm never doing that again. So in his prediction to start the year, Bill Barnwell had the Chiefs beating the Bucs 31-17 in the Super Bowl. And he amended it to 31-24 because at the end of the day, he said, I don't want to go through the entire Super Bowl and hope there isn't any Patrick Mahomes magic. Now, that's sort of a way of saying, okay, I want to enjoy the experience a little more, so I'm picking the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. But if you think about it, that's the essence of this entire game. Like, we could go with this and that matchup and this matchup and that matchup. But at the end of the day, if you're picking the Bucs, you are believing that Patrick Mahomes will not do the thing we've always seen him done. And if you're picking the Chiefs, you're counting on, I've seen this, I know how this plays out, and I know how this is going to work because the script has never changed. I mean, at the bare minimum, you break down everything else, and we can talk about some of the matchups. That's it, right? Either you're counting on Patrick Mahomes to be back Patrick Mahomes, or for the first time really ever, him not being Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. It's interesting. This is the first time I haven't been the week of the Super Bowl at the Super Bowl site since 2001.
27 straight seasons for me. 27 straight.
Right. It's just incredible. So this is the first year for me that I haven't been there. And so it's 20 years for me that I've been there. And last year I had the opportunity. Fox asked me to go and entertain a group of advertisers, right? So we go and they put us in, great seats right on the 45-yard line in the front, in the first row, right? About 7 rows up. And I am like literally jammed in there with a bunch of Chiefs fans. And so I'm rooting for the Niners because of, Kyle Shanahan and my, my history with Mike Shanahan. And so now you gotta, you know how I am. I'm a really good loser, but I'm a really bad winner. Right. So
Right.
the Niners are ahead, man. And I am just going to town on these. I've almost have a couple of 35-year-old men crying. Right. I'm just being an absolute dick. And so I'm going to town on these guys. And of course, then the Wasp pass happens with about 6:30, the Wasp play. And next thing you know, then the game's over. And they're just turning around and just giving it to me. And it was the sense to me, to Barnwell's point, the sense of community that was the coolest part of. It's the first time I've been in the stands to watch a game. Like, it's the first time and it was that sense of community where we're giving each other grief, and we went out high-fiving like, what a great game. And ultimately, to me, this is going to be it should be a great game and a great matchup between two really good teams and two all-time quarterbacks.
Yeah. Last year, we had the president of the 49ers on, Golic and Wingo, that week. Al Guido was his name. And he did a great interview, talked about a bunch of stuff. So the segment was done, and it was a commercial break, and we went over and talked to him just a little bit. And I said, so what do you think? And he goes, look, man, I love my team. I love everything about our team. I love Kyle. I love the way we run the rock. I love our front seven. I love our team. Then he looked me dead in the eyes and said, but that guy number 15 scares me to death.
Right.
And that's sort of the whole essence, right? Like, Pro Football Focus did a great breakdown on Twitter. They rated the top 20 players in the Super Bowl, their rankings 1 through 20. There were 7 Chiefs and 13 Bucs. But the top 5 went this way: 1 Patrick Mahomes, 2 Tom Brady, 3 Travis Kelce, 4 Tyreek Hill, 5 Chris Jones. So the Chiefs had fewer, almost half as much top players in the game, but they had 4 of the 5 top players in the game. And we'll do it. We can break down a bunch of stuff, but at the end of the day, to me, that is the game in a nutshell. Those guys are going to have to suck, to me, for the Bucs to win, and I don't see them sucking.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. And here's the thing that has impressed me about the Chiefs, or one of the things that has impressed me about the Chiefs. Um, it is that kind of, I don't want to call it like flip the switch mentality, because I don't
Yeah.
think it's that. I just think during critical moments, they just have an ability, both offensively and defensively, to make plays. And I
Yep.
think it's because they've got great players. I think obviously, with, you mentioned Chris Jones and Matthew on the defensive side of the ball. And then
That
obviously
kid
with,
L'Jarius Sneed has been amazing.
Snead's been amazing. Breland has been, an outstanding at the cornerback position, but they just seem to have guys that, when the bigger the moment is, the better they are at making a play. Like
Totally agree.
that's what they do. And so that, to me, has kind of been their biggest part of the biggest attribute they have.
And obviously the Bucs have that in Tom Brady. And again, I've said this before when we went through Championship Sunday. I'll say it again. This will never happen again. Like, someone could argue that at the end of his career, let's say Mahomes has 5 Super Bowls or 4 Super Bowls. I don't think anyone's ever going to get to the things that Brady is doing, for 3 reasons. 1, his longevity is off the charts. 2, his inner drive to still want to do this at 43 is off the charts. And 3, the situations that he's found himself in. I mean, like, again, you can't say this enough. Take out his rookie year because he didn't play, and take out 2008 because he played one half of one game before he blew out his ACL. In 19 full seasons, he's played in the Super Bowl 10 times. More than half of his, like, you won 3 Super Bowls and you went 3 times. That is chef's kiss good as you could possibly have in your career. And Tom Brady's like, I'm going to triple that and then add one. I mean, that's how incredibly off the charts insane what Tom Brady's career has become. It'll never be done. It'll never be duplicated. It'll never be repeated. So we have to acknowledge that part of it. So now I think people from listening to this are figuring out where we're leaning in the game. Let's play devil's advocate, because I believe if the Chiefs play clean, they're going to win. And by clean, I mean they don't have stupid penalties. They don't have a million turnovers. They don't suddenly have the dropsies and all that kind of stuff. I believe they're going to win. So let's assume now a scenario where we think Tampa Bay can win. And one place that the Bucs have a huge advantage is their front 7 against the Chiefs' offensive line that is without its 2 best tackles. They've been without Mitchell Schwartz for almost the entire season, and he is phenomenal. And then the loss of Eric Fisher, their left tackle, to the Achilles injury in the AFC title game, is devastating on a lot of levels. But the question then becomes, okay, we know that, and we know we have an advantage there. How do the Bucs take advantage of those mismatches?
Yeah, I think one thing, I think there's a couple of things. Anytime that you're predicated on blitz and blitz pressure, and Todd Bowles is a former teammate of mine with Washington. Todd is a guy that's going to try to steal possessions. And what I mean by that is, you're going to blitz early, first and second down. You're going to try to get an offense behind the chains, get off the field on third down, see if you can get your offense 2 or 3 extra possessions. So ultimately it comes down to this. If the game is 12 possessions, you're going to try to, through blitz and through pressures, you're going to try to get them to lose a couple of possessions, down to 9 possessions, for instance, and get your offense a couple extra possessions. So now all of a sudden you've got 15 possessions. The opponent has 9 possessions. So we've got more opportunities for our offense to score. When you're talking about pressure, there's 2 things they do really well. One, they play a lot of 5-man fronts. They stop the run with their 5-man fronts. And then when it comes to pressure, it's all about timing and execution of pressure and how your back end ties together with your front end. So they're really good on the back end. They've got 3 corners that can flat out play, that are long, that are linear, that use their hands well. Carlton Davis is a great player. Probably.
He got torched in that Week 12 matchup. Tyreek Hill had 200 receiving yards in the first quarter against him. Obviously, I don't think they'll leave him one-on-one on Tyreek again.
You're not going to leave him one-on-one on. I don't know that you can do one-on-one on Tyreek anywhere, but he is that fast. So you've got to do a great job of not only, stymieing that guy on the line of scrimmage, but staying with him and having somebody over the top. So you kind of high-low that guy. Dean is a good player. Murphy Bunning's a really good player as well. But it really comes down to, if you're going to play that way, your timing of your blitz has got to get there. And so it's interesting. I'm talking to Sean Payton about affecting the quarterback on blitz. And Sean told me, you got to be there on 4 steps. So on your fourth step, you don't have to hit the quarterback, but you've got to affect the throw on the fourth step. So can I get there? Can I get there clean, fourth step, hit the quarterback, disrupt disrupt the window what
Right.
he's trying to throw it through, make him move off his spot. If I can do it at the fourth step, I've got an opportunity to be effective. So when you're playing that style of defense on the back end, you talked about Carlton Davis, or you talk about Murphy Bunting or Dean, you better get there on the fourth step. So how do you effectively eliminate that? You either pick it up, you quick count them so they're a couple of yards away from the line of scrimmage. Those are the things that you have to look at. Can they affect that? Can they affect Patrick Mahomes? I think the other thing that's really interesting to me, Trey, is I always call it the 70-30 rule. 70% of the time you're on. Yeah, 70% of the time you're on schedule, right? 70% of the time your quarterback hands it off. It's 2nd down and 6. He throws a little bubble screen. It's 3rd down and 2. You convert, you're on schedule. It's the 30% of the time when things break down that if you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, the opponent's in trouble. And to me, one of the things you have to be able to do is make Kansas City be on schedule 90+% of the time. Because when he breaks out, he's got people draped on his legs. He throws one sidearm as he's falling down 37 yards across the football field to a streaking Tyreek Hill, who catches it in stride and takes it 60 yards to the house. You almost have to make them methodically trudge down the field, and then you get into the red zone, and the red zone is a way you can mitigate their speed advantage because you have that 12th defender, which is the end line. And it's almost like you've got to say, we're going to make you kick field goals in the red zone, and that's the only way we're going to actually be in this game.
Well, to your point, they did that a couple of times in the first half, and that's why it was only a 20-7 margin at the half, the Bucs down, as opposed to maybe being, 28 or 35-7 down at that point, because they made him kick a couple of field goals. However, all that said, here's the problem. Todd Bowles, I think, over the last 4 games of the regular season, blitzed more than any, or the Bucs defense blitzed more than any other defense. Here are Mahomes' numbers against the blitz since he became a starting quarterback in 2018. Number 1 completion percentage, number 1 total passing yards, number 1 in yards per attempt, the best touchdown to interception ratio against the blitz, and the highest passer rating. So, you can blitz him, but as you said, you better get him. And that's one of the reasons why in the regular season matchup, week 6 against the Bills did not blitz Patrick Mahomes one time in that game. It was the first time since 2016 that a team did not blitz once, because to your point, the Bills' strategy was, let's make him stay on schedule. Let's make him go down the field. And that was the game that the Chiefs ran for 245 yards. It was a Tuesday game in the rain up in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran like they had just signed Le'Veon Bell, which they had. So that's the dilemma. When you play the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, you're deciding to give up points one of 2 ways. Either we're going to have death by 1,000 paper cuts, or we're going to get the slash that will have us bleed out. And that's what happened in the first game when they hit Tyreek Hill all that time. So I'm sure they'll try that up. The question then becomes, do we believe the Chiefs can be methodical enough? And in games where they've had to be, whether it was in Buffalo against the Bills, albeit against a much lesser run defense, I get it, or against a Cleveland team that was pretty good against the run in the playoff game, they gashed them too when they needed to be. And the only thing that kept that game remotely close was Mahomes went out with the injury. So I guess my question to you is, you have 2 choices if you're the Bucs. Live by the blitz, die by the blitz when you see Mahomes' numbers against the blitz, or do you think your run defense is good enough to keep them, like you said, 8-play, 9-play, 10-play, 11-play drives? What's your strategy?
Yeah, well, my strategy, here's Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles believes in live by the blitz, die by the blitz. And their whole philosophical approach to that is, hey, we're going to give up 3 explosives, but we're going to create 8 for us as a defense. So I think you have to temper some of that. I think your blitz strategy has to be, we're going to contain edges with our pass rushers in JPP, who's been amazing, Shaq Barrett. We can't let him escape right or left, because either way, he's going to kill you. So we have to make sure we maintain edge, integrity, and blitz him up the middle, bring pressure up the middle, and say, you're not escaping either way. So if you escape, you got to escape up the middle of the pocket. And hopefully we condense that enough and we have somebody get off a Vita Vea or whoever it is and stop you from rushing up the middle. But again, I just don't know that you get to this point in the season and say, hey, let's be somebody that we're not.
Right.
Like that's the hard part for me. So I think you've got to bring pressure, but I think it's got to be middle pressure, and you have to have edge integrity to stop him from escaping. Because if he escapes out and extends the play either right or left, he's going to kill you. It's just that's who he is. He's an assassin.
To your point, someone put it out there on Twitter, and I can't remember who it was, but they did a release chart of all of Tom Brady's throws in the season and all of Patrick Mahomes throws. And if you look at the Tom Brady release chart, it was this sort of linear column that sort of went up and down in between the two tackles. Like that's where his release point was. And then they showed the Mahomes chart, and it was everywhere. Like there were dots everywhere, to your point. And there was one play in the first meeting, week 12, which I think sums up the problem. It was the Chiefs in a shotgun snap, and Mahomes was rolling to his left. And that was the idea. The whole idea, the design of the play was to get him out of the pocket and be able to roll a little bit left to buy himself more time. And the pressure was coming. And just before the pressure got there, Mahomes lifted this ball, rolling to his left, back to the right over the middle, which you never want to do. Never throw late back over the middle of the field. And it went over the linebacker, right in front of the safety, into Travis Kelce's hands in a window that was about this big. And so can the Bucs do it? Yes, absolutely. I believe they can. But do I trust the Bucs to get to Mahomes more often than I trust Mahomes to be Mahomes? Right? I mean, that is it. Like, do we think this is going to happen? And if the Bucs do that, they're going to win. But do we believe that's going to happen more often? Or the Mahomes that threw for 464 yards in that game against Tampa in Tampa on week 12?
Right.
Which one of those things is more likely?
Yeah. So I was like, hey, listen, I was talking on my radio show today, and I go, if the standard defense holds true, we give up 3 explosives, but we get 8, Tampa Bay will win this game. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the reverse will be true. I think Kansas City will create 8 explosives on the offensive side when you're blitzing, and they'll only and Tampa Bay will only get 3, and therefore you've got a Kansas City win. I just think there's going to be enough big plays that Mahomes will find with the speed of that offense, and with the ability and the connection he has with Kelce and with Hill and all the other guys, that I just think they'll be able to make enough big plays to win this football game.
And you mentioned Super Bowl 33, which will now forever be known as the stink rectal thermometer joke game. That was the Super Bowl in which you repeated. And that entire season, you guys knew you were the best team in football. And you wanted to do 2 things. You wanted to get Davis his 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
And you wanted to get back and have a chance to repeat. And we've talked about this on the Chop Shop before, the mental pressure and the tiredness that comes with that weight all season long. It's kind of lifted now, right? Because they're where they want to be. So when you took to the field that game against the Falcons, which you won 34-19 in Miami, John Elway, the MVP, what was your mindset of like, okay, all season long, we knew we wanted to be back to have a chance to do something that only the truly great teams do, back-to-back championships. When you knew you were finally in that position, was your thought process or your mental clarity a little different than it was the entire season?
I think it was. I think one of the big things, and you and I have talked about this, one of the big things, and I think Andy Reid has done an exceptional job of this, is one of the things we talked about all the time was boredom.
Yeah.
Attention to detail and boredom. You guys know that you're better than the teams that you're playing most of the time, right? So how do we stay focused? How do we stay on task? And I think Andy Reid and his staff have done a great job of constantly changing things up, constantly changing game plans up, constantly changing formations up, motions up, shifts up, personnel groupings up, to make everybody lock in and at least have to prepare, right? Have to think a little bit. And you see some of the unique things they do down on the goal line, whether it's a 4x1 diamond formation, shovel pass to Kelsey, or whatever the case may be, right? I think that's part and parcel of that, is to say, we're going to fight this boredom. I think the other thing is you look at Andy Reid from a coaching staff standpoint. I go back to Super Bowl 33. In both of the Broncos Super Bowls I played in, I thought as good as we were and as dialed in as we were as a football team, I thought game plan wise, we had a superior coach when it came to game planning. So I go back to Super Bowl 32. We got into formation. We got into a slot right formation, right? So we had our Z receiver come to the weak side and get into slot. So you have two receivers on one side, tight end on the other side. So strong right slot. And anytime we did that, there was an exchange of responsibility between the weak side linebacker, which was Brian Williams, and Leroy Butler. So Leroy Butler basically became the will linebacker, and the will linebacker became the safety. They kind of exchanged it, but they did it late. And so that was something we picked up on film. Mike Shanahan did, and said, we're going to eviscerate them in the running game. And we did. And they never got out of it. They never checked out of it. And we absolutely ate them alive on the cutback runs, because our offensive line was picking up the safety who was, in that exchange. In that game in Super Bowl 33, the Atlanta Falcons were the number one sack team in football. They had something they called themselves the Bomb Squad, and their defensive front in nickel they had like 55 sacks on the season. Probably 40 plus of those sacks were during nickel, when you get into three wides and one back and stuff. We played the entirety of that game out of base. We never let them get into their nickel. So when we wanted to go spread, Howard Griffith, our fullback, was out in one, and Terrell Davis was outside the numbers on the other side. So we never let them get into nickel personnel. So we never let them actually use their blitz packages. And the rest is history. So when it comes to game planning, I will just tell you, I think Andy Reid is as good as it gets when it comes to the bubble screens and the motions and all the trick plays and kind of the off-schedule plays that they run. I just think he's better right now than just about any coach in football. And so I'm going to give that advantage to Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
Yeah, I just look, there's no doubt that I think the Bucs can win, but there's a much larger percentage in my mind thinking that the Chiefs will win. So I have the Chiefs 34-24. I'm going to throw that out there, because remember, it was 27-17. They were up comfortably after, a huge halftime lead. And they got a little lazy, like they did through most of those games at that point in the regular season, and sort of, dicked around a little bit. And then Mike Evans scored with about 4 minutes to play and made it 27-24. And remember, the Bucs never got the ball back. The Chiefs were able to grind out 3 or 4 first downs, and that was the ball game. The Chiefs, don't get it twisted. The Chiefs can run when they need to run. It's not that they can't run. It's just that why drive when you can fly? And you have a Learjet at your disposal. You know what I mean? So I think when push comes to shove, they are who they are. They know what's at stake, and they've won 25 of the last 26 games they've tried to win. Those things are important to me as I evaluate this game. And I have the Chiefs winning anywhere from 7 to 10 points. I'll go 34-24.
Yeah, you know what? I tell you, I am rooting for Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Part of it just because I want to see this history, right? I want to see him win another one. I just think it would be tremendous, especially, leaving New England and it was all, I hear people say, well, it's all scheme. It was all Belichick, I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, good. So there's that part. The other part is I was on one of the teams. There's only 7 teams in the history of the National Football League that have gone back to back. I'm an AFC West guy. I hate the Chiefs with the white hot intensity of 1,000 suns, and I would hate to see the Chiefs become the 8th team to go back-to-back championships. So I am. However, I am rooting hard for Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. However, I got the Chiefs winning this game because they are that good. They just are that good. And I picked them 34-30.
Yeah.
So,
Look,
and it could be just like a late courtesy touchdown at the end.
right.
We've seen
Right.
that before. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Listen, at the end of the day, there's nothing I think at this point that you can take away from Tom Brady as the greatest of all time. There's nothing about his legacy that will change, in my mind, one way or another. If he wins another one, it's another one. I mean, he's already got 6. No one's
Right.
ever had more. I mean, and he played in 10, all that kind of stuff. Tom Brady is the greatest of all time, but we are now firmly ensconced in the Patrick Mahomes era in the NFL, and he is by far the best player in football. And we need to just prepare for that and just understand that reality. So at the end of the day, that's why I'm going with the Chiefs. I will say this, though. One of two things is going to happen from a quarterback perspective. And I get it. Quarterbacks are not the only reason teams win, and it's not a QB stat. But come Sunday evening, either Tom Brady will win his second Super Bowl ring as a starting quarterback in his 40s, or Patrick Mahomes will have 2 rings at the age of 25. Either one of those things is absolutely ridiculous, and we'll see how it plays out on Super Bowl Sunday. By the way, special programming note, if you're watching here in the Chop Shop, Mark and I are going to be doing something very interesting on Super Bowl Sunday, because you've said this to me before. Waiting for the game to start on Super Bowl Sunday is like the worst, right? As a player, it's the worst because it's different this year because they haven't been there all week, but most of the time you've been there all week and you're just like, can we go? Can we go? Can we go? So what do you do in your pregame experience to get yourself so the time passes before you play, air quotes, the biggest game of your life? We're going to be breaking that down in a very unique way on a brand new platform called Clubhouse, and we'll tweet about that so you can find a way to catch that out a little bit later on. So with that, my friend, I bid you adieu until Sunday afternoon, and we'll see what happens Super Bowl 55.
All right. We'll see you then. And I just want you to know 98.6. I'm perfect.